Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. Welcome back to Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and with me today is author Ben Hoppe. Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, trying to figure out this weather. I think we're finally hitting cold now.
I thought we were going to have that here in Texas too, and we had this like really warm snap, and then it got cold, and I could feel the wind coming through my window in my office. So it got warmer today. I hope it stays that way.
Yeah, I think all the cold is here to stay in St. Louis. We've been going up and down for a while, but I think we're finally going to stay down. I think we're supposed to get snow later this week, maybe even. So that'll be exciting.
You can keep that. I left the Midwest to get away from that. So please take it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So Ben, you're an author, and I came across your book because the Amazon algorithm kills me every time. And obviously, you're on my show, so you have something to do with board games. So tell me about your book.
Yeah, my book is called The Beginner's Board Game Bible. It's really kind of meant to be a beginner's guide for people that either are just getting into the hobby of board games or are working on maybe trying to get some of their friends into the hobby as well. So it's really kind of geared towards people who haven't been exposed to board games much at all, where maybe their thought of when they hear board games is Monopoly or Risk or Scrabble, something along those lines. And so really trying to help kind of broaden their horizons into the kind of the world that I've come to know and love.
Excellent. No, I totally understand. And the Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers did an amazing job, but that was the turn of the century. We're a little beyond that. Monopoly's coming up on being 90, I think. It'll be 90 in a couple years. So, there's more out there. And so I'm obviously well-versed in the board game world, and I still couldn't help but buy your book because I'm like, I read and consume anything about board games. And my podcast is kind of about board gaming at lunch and trying to getting a game group together. And so that's what really drew me to your book, is that you talk about games of different styles. That to me is the area where I think a lot of people don't understand, right? It's not just the roll and move anymore. It's not just a deck of cards playing poker. There's a lot out there. Just like you said in your book, there's, games for everybody. You just got to find it, right? And I think what I really enjoyed was your list of books, and then, or the one game in your book that I was not familiar with was The Mystery of the Abbey. Yep. And I wish it was in print because I want to play that game.
As soon as so it was right around the time I published the book. And then I went back and was kind of looking at everything, and I had made like a quiz that people could take to see what game was, recommended for them. And then I realized I never thought to look to see how many, which of these games are still in print. Cause I am recommending, different games for people to try out. A great one to start with. And here I recommend this like souped up version of Clue. And then I come to think about, I did not look up to make sure that thing was still in print.
And I love Clue. And so when I was reading this, like, oh my gosh, I got to get this game. And it is not in print right now. I will be stalking it on eBay. And I know a couple game flea markets in the area that I'm going to have to hit up and see if I can find this Mystery of the Abbey. Because it just sounds amazing. Just simply amazing.
It's like you're almost in an episode of like an 80s like TV show. They're going to a monastery. There was a murder at the at the monastery, and a monk did it. Who did it? And so just so much fun with it. And they put it in some like quirky things. So I distinctly remember sitting around my family kitchen table, and my siblings and I are singing Frere Jacques as a round because the game told us to. So it like you have like the aspects of, you know, deduction and trying to figure out what you should do, but you all it also includes these little funny things that you have to do in there. If someone catches you doing something wrong, you have to pay penance. Like there's just so many just fun little aspects of it that are just
Oh,
hilarious.
oh man, yeah. So anybody listening, if you have a copy of Mystery of the Abbey and you don't want it anymore, reach out. So how did you get into gaming? You talked about your siblings. Did you play a lot as a kid growing up?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had that classic collection as a kid. So you know, we had Monopoly, Scrabble. You know, we had those types of games. And I'm a younger, much younger sibling, and I remember walking into my brother's house. I think I was 10 years old at the time, 10 or 12, and I walked into my brother's house, and he was sitting there with his wife playing Catan. And so this was the first time that I had seen this, and this was the early 2000s, and I'm like, what in the world is this thing? And so they introduced that game to myself as well as my other siblings. And, you know, it just took off from there. From that. So from Catan, we went on to, you know, a little bit of Cities and Nights. At one point, they got that expansion for it. And then there was Ticket to Ride was the next step in the journey. And then from Ticket to
Naturally.
Ride, exactly, right? And so it was Catan into Ticket to Ride into Dominion. Was kind of some of the main like stepping stones. There's a few different games along the way as well, but those are like the three games that I kind of remember from different parts of like my journey through gaming. So that's really where it started, was with Catan for me, and the rest is history.
Just keep it going.
Yep, just keep doing it, because I mean it's I mean, even now, we just had my brother visit with his kids, and that was kind of what we did. Like the first day that they came down to visit, it was like, you guys were just driving for a little while, so let's just play board games for basically the entire night. Do you want to go see a place you've never seen before? Sure, we can do that later. Let's play games first.
There you go. Yeah, and I liked how in your book you talked about even playing at the airport and using it as like as a icebreaker and getting to know people. And to me, that's what I really like about board gaming is that you can, you know, I always say board games build bridges, and I firmly believe that. Because there's so many out there, so many different kinds, and I'm an omni gamer. I'll play anything. I prefer obviously 60 minutes and under because that fits a lunch hour real nice. But
Yep.
now my buddy, I've been playing with him and his friends at their game night, and we've been playing a lot of Champions of Midgard, which is one of my favorite games. And that clearly is not an hour game, but it's probably my favorite non-hour game. It's just my game. But we were talking about playing at the airport and all. I remember when I was traveling when I was younger, and the group, we had a deck of cards, and we were sitting in an airport playing euchre or
Yep.
poker or whatever because you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. Anytime I travel, like I take games with me. It does not matter where I go. I will have, and now if I'm driving, that I will take more games with me.
In bigger games.
We have a larger game bag that I will just throw into my car, and I'll make sure that that's filled up with, you know, anywhere from 10 to 20. Why so many? Well, I don't know who's going to be there. I want to make sure that like I have something for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
But then if I'm, you know, traveling, I've figured out ways. So, okay, I can get code names into this tiny little Ziploc bag. I can get this one out there. So, I mean, we've played code names and Saboteur at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I've taken some different games with me too. I'm a curler, so the Winter Olympic sport, that's one of my favorite hobbies. And I will take games to a curling tournament. It's known as a Bonspiel. I'll bring it to that. It's a bond spiel. You have to have, you know, games with that, Spiel des Jahres, right? You have to have a game that was nominated there. It's just a natural connection. And people always come over. What are you doing? Can I play? Or they've
Absolutely.
played games before and they want to get in too because they see, you know, Splendor on the table or something else.
Or they see just a game in general and they're like, "Ooh, I don't know this game. What's this game?"
Exactly.
No, you were the only person I've ever had to work around their curling schedule. I can tell you that. That was I was like, "Well, I don't want to interrupt your curling practice."
It's a fun hobby, and it's become like it's like chess on ice in a way. So kind of it activates a lot of the same things that I've kind of taken from board gaming. So there's a lot of crossover in the world too, where I can bring up board games. I've had different people from my local curling club, like we've played board games together, and it's a fun thing to do. And so, different ways of critical thinking and kind of some of the same social the things that you get from board games,
Oh
you can
yeah,
get over there too.
well, that's great. Yeah, and I'm like you when I travel. If I'm driving, I take more games, bigger games, longer games because they need more space. But yeah, I'm known in my family as the gaming cousin. So when I show up, everybody just kind of waiting. What games do you have in your car? And I'm like, well, today I have this, and it's. I try to keep it under control, not overwhelm anybody because that's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was still like the first the as my brother and I were trying to coordinate plans, like, what are we gonna go see when you come to visit? What are we gonna do? I like got the text at one point. Any games you want me to bring with me? What do you want me to bring along? It's a matter of, okay, I have to try and mentally think of what's in his collection, what's in my collection. Don't want to have any crossover because
Oh
that's
no,
extra space that he could have. We could have. So just a matter of really gotta coordinate as great as we can. We've got our priorities together.
I I understand. Yeah, that was kind of what was annoying at one of my game groups. Is like I would bring a game, then everybody would like it and go buy it. And then we had like 20 copies of Catan. It's like we don't need 20 copies. Okay, go buy something completely different and let's have a next a different game. If you need Catan, borrow mine.
Yep.
Like you said, you don't want to get the crossover. You want to maximize your potential here, right? One of the other things I found interesting in your book was you made a mention of stop watching marble racing, and I took offense to that. That's one of my favorite things to watch right now on YouTube with my kids is the marble racing and die-cast car racing.
There you go.
So when you said stop watching marble racing, I'm like, what?
I said that as somebody who that is what I was doing so much of. Like I started watching it before the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic hit, and that kept on happening. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to keep watching these awesome marble runs, or these different sports adapted with marbles. Like for those that are interested, like that follow, Yellow's marble runs, like Go Green Ducks. I have to give a shout out
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them
I'm
here.
a raspberry racer, so yeah, we almost had it last time and then failed at the end. But yeah, that was an interesting thing you wrote. That I'm like, it's almost like he's writing this book to me. But I'm going to keep watching my marble rounds. I can tell you that. Oh, I also want to mention I did take your game quiz, which was very fun, and we'll make sure we have the link to that in the show notes so we can make sure everybody should go take it. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. Settlers of Catan came out as my game, so no shock there. No shock there.
Yep. I knew it was good when I was giving it to multiple people that I had a pretty good feel for what either their game would be, or I've played games with them before, and it was what I was expecting it to be. So I was pretty happy when I was kind of play testing the quiz itself.
But yeah, it kind of validates all your work.
Made me feel a little bit like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, and you know what? That's dangerous, right?
Don't give me that kind of an ego boost.
Yeah,
That's all I have to say.
don't. It's like when my mother in law laughs at me, and my mom and my wife's like, "Mom, don't laugh at him. It only encourages it."
My wife says that to me too.
Yeah,
But my head will inflate no matter what. So it's going to happen.
it's gonna happen one way or the other. So if I came down to Texas, obviously post pandemic, what game is currently sitting on your table? What is your favorite game right now?
Favorite game right now for me, I'm still on a Wingspan kick. I especially now that they've kind of pushed it into Steam and it's on Android App Store. So I've been kind of just having that. I kind of take it with me wherever I go. So love Wingspan. Just from the beauty aspect, just love the artwork and illustrations, and ultimately just the gameplay overall. Love a good engine builder, and it's just so much fun, and it changes every single
Yeah,
time. It's got great replayability.
yeah, that's always key. A good replayability, high component quality in that game. Stonemaier Games is really known for really high quality games. One of my favorite by him is My Little Scythe. I play that with my kids, and just the little minis are very, very well done. Like they're not kids' toys. Like they're
Yep.
like actual gaming minis, and you got the apples and the jewels and all that. I mean, it's and with Wingspan, you got the awesome birdhouse dice tower and the little wooden eggs and custom
and
dice.
and you can, and I've seen some really great things too. My one of my siblings has a 3D printer, so
Yeah.
they're they're printing their own components. I think his brother-in-law printed him some purple eggs. I hate to admit this, but he's a Vikings fan. I'm a
Mm.
Packers fan, so we kind of clash a little bit in our
Oh
family.
man,
But
and I'm a
uh,
Bears fan, so that's really bad.
oof, well,
Yeah.
my wife is too. So I won't go too much into that here, but he will take his brother in law had printed him purple eggs. So whenever he takes eggs, he always takes purple and gold. Those are the only colors he ever takes out of the nest. So
Well,
kudos to him.
why not? Yeah, I mean, might as well. If you like, being 0-4 in the Super Bowl, and always getting so close and then not making it. But
You said it, not me.
yeah, he probably won't. Yeah, whatever. So before the pandemic, did you board game at lunch with your coworkers?
I have not really had much of an opportunity to do that. So pre-pandemic, I was working a lot with young people, and so it was very much like in a youth development role. And because of that, the number of people that I worked with was kind of spread across the Upper Midwest, or spread across the state of Wisconsin. So I didn't really have a whole lot of like a an opportunity to game with coworkers, but I did incorporate games into some different learning environments. As I kind of mentioned in the book, I took it with me on some trips that we did with youth. We did a homeschool program where I kind of taught math and probability using the game Can't Stop. So just kind of played in some different opportunities to incorporate that whenever I could.
Can't Stop's a classic.
It's a great game, and I didn't have enough. I only had my own personal copy, so I made kind of a paper variant version of it that was a little bit more like just kind of a quicker play. And I got a text from one of the parents afterwards that their kid was actually making kind of that same variant at home. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, there you go. Another one indoctrinated into the hobby.
Yep, did what I needed to do.
Yeah, so that brings me back around to something else said in your book. An important thing about board gaming is it gives people a safe environment in which to lose, and that losing's okay. And I think that is very important. So my daughter's 3. I got the game for her, my first Castle Panic. It is so well balanced that you're not going to win every time. And losing a cooperative game like that together, it's a safe environment in which to lose. You get the chance to explain it's okay. Like, we did the best thing we could do, and we didn't make it, and that happens.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I'm a hyper competitive person. Don't get me wrong. Like I out and outside of the world of board games, like if I do something wrong or if I lose, it's rough. That's also one of the ways that I knew, like from the time, like board gaming helped me get better at losing. But it also helped me, like going back really briefly to curling, like I learned how much I suck at that sport. Like I'm still awful, but I have so much fun every single time. And the fact that I have fun doing it is why I know that's like something that I truly love doing. And it's the same thing with board games. I can lose over and over and over again, but by and large, I'm going to love doing it. I had the opportunity to play Acquire with my brother, and I talk about this in my book. I've played that game a number of times. I have never ever won a game of Acquire. I don't know what that says about me, but I've never won it. But when he asked me what game should I bring with me down to Texas, I said, please bring Acquire so we can play that at least once. We played. I got second once again, my perennial spot in that game, and that's okay. I still had a
Always
blast
a
playing it.
bridesmaid, never a bride.
That is okay.
Now, I love Acquire. I was recently able to play it for the first time, and oh my gosh, I found an old computerized version of it that's like, I don't know, it's like 3 megabytes. It's not even it's not even that big. And man, I play it all the time. It's such a great game. Oh my gosh, Sid Saxon, man,
Yep.
that's a game. That's a
It's
game.
and it's just one that you can, there's just so many different layers to it. You can make plans, but just as quickly, like you can have those plans foiled. Like seeing my nephew's face when I introduced a new hotel that he had held on to a bunch of stocks for, and he had a full plan for that himself. I foiled it without even trying to, and it was perfect. Just seeing the reaction of futility as an uncle, that makes you feel so happy.
What version does he have?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm just
It
curious.
is a newer version of the game.
The Hasbro one, the
I
flat
think.
tiles, cardboard tiles.
Yep, that would be the one.
Yeah, that's the easiest one to find, or the original one, the 3M edition,
Oh,
like the
really?
original. Like those are like the newest and the oldest are the easiest to find. It's the ones in the middle that are impossible to find, especially the Avalon Hill one where it's all 3D. They have like 3D hotels that sit on top of the tiles that click down into place.
Oh, that
Yeah,
would make it feel a little too real for me at that
it,
point.
it's like $150 on eBay if you can find a copy.
Well, thanks to the world of 3D printing, maybe it's a little bit easier to get something like that set up, right?
Three the whole reason why I don't have a 3D printer is because I wouldn't be able to stop printing stupid stuff for board gaming. And I'm like, I don't need more stupid stuff around. I have plenty of it. I don't need to be printing off Cthulhu dice towers and
Yep, same thing. I mean, same thing for me. I mean, that's just with my board game collection as a whole. I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know if we get this. That means that there's something else that we're probably not going to be playing. And I really just need to make sure that whatever we have, we're actually going through.
we are recording this on January 5th, and I'm happy to say I have not bought a new game yet this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 5 days.
I got to putting together my Christmas list, and I'm like, normally, like, this is a thing that happens. I usually get at least one or two or three every year, and at the last minute, actually, I had Pandemic Legacy Season 0 on there just in case. And then last minute, I thought of something. I won't get this, and I put this on there. I didn't get either of them, and that's okay.
Yeah, I took all of them off mine this year. I was like, I can't. I've got too many that I'm not getting played. I've got a lot that I'm not playing enough, and I'm like, I think I can just take Christmas off. I'm not stopping backing on Kickstarter though. I can tell you that. Still alive and well on Kickstarter. Do you get into Kickstarter much as a backer or creator?
I haven't really. I need to look more and follow a little bit more into it because I've come across a few games that I hear good things about, or hey, you should do this, and then by the time I want to go and get it, it's having to wait for a second or third printing. I think the most the example that I remember the most is Parks. I used to work as a park ranger, and so that came out, and I think probably 6 different people send me a link like, have you seen this? I was like, that looks cool. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it or not. And I'm just, I think at that point my wife and I just got married. So trying to think through like, is this something that is she going to like? And that's a lot of times what I have to really consider if I'm going to buy a game. Is this something my wife will play? And I didn't know whether or not that was going to be something that she would play. So I was like, I'll hold off on it. And then by the time I started to hear some of the positive reviews for it, I'm like, oh, I think we might be able to play this in my house. And then I went to go look for it, and it was really difficult to find until I think they did another run of printing. And so I was able to get it from my local game store in Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
I probably need to get onto the Kickstarter, back some more folks, and get onto this so I don't find myself waiting for things as much.
You gotta be careful, or you're gonna wake up and have no money and waiting on 20 games to show up. So I had 19 open Kickstarters at one point. Now I'm down to 14. So hey, they're showing up.
You're recovering.
I'm. I haven't. I don't think I backed anything yet this year. No, I've already backed something this year. So yeah. But yeah, I haven't bought a new game yet. I might have backed one Kickstarter already, so that happens. So, what would be your go-to 30-minute game if you're going to play over a lunch half hour? What would be your go-to 30-minute game?
I would probably have to go with Splendor. I think it's got great replayability in my opinion, and it's got that fun little social aspect where you can be mean to other people without necessarily being, thinking too specifically about it. I will get yelled at because I'll try to pay attention to what everybody else is going for, and then maybe reserve a card on the right
with
before their
and
turn.
with no intention to actually ever pay for it, just to keep it out of their hand.
I may or may not have done that once or twice.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's probably one of my go-tos there. And I've gotten to dabble a little bit with some of the expansions into it. And there's just a lot of variation that can go into it. So I'd probably say Splendor, or if need be, I can always fall back on the classic Ticket to Ride as well.
Ticket to Ride's always a solid game. Lately with Ticket to Ride, what I've been liking is the custom sets off Board Game Geek that people have made, like the crazy. Someone made a Simpsons one where it's all going around Springfield, and then there was the Emerald City, the solar system, which is also one of the crazier ideas, like the solar system. So yeah, Ticket to Ride, solid game. Can never go wrong with that. How about a 60-minute full lunch hour?
I mean, we talked about Wingspan earlier. That's one that I enjoy. However, like there can be enough thinking time that goes into that I found that some of my games of Wingspan, especially within my family, can take a little bit over that hour mark. Outside of that, I have to look back here to see what other things I can think of that would fit into that.
Well, Catan's always a classic 1 hour game.
Yeah, and that's one that my wife is not a huge fan of, so I don't get to play that as often. So actually, that's probably a great answer for that. Is I would probably go into Catan a little bit, just from the fact that I don't really get to play that as much at home.
Yeah.
So great way to go into that. And I love I know there's a talk of the randomness of it if your numbers aren't rolled, but I love the social aspect of that game. Any game that has trading, I think there's a lot of fun that you can have. I enjoy the opportunity to be spiteful towards people, or when that's returned back at me. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah, in my office, I was always known as the guy that I would, hey, you want this? Nah, I don't need that. What if I give you this and this? Okay, yeah, I'll take 2 cards. Yeah, I don't even
Yep.
need either one of them, but I have 2 cards now, and you got one, and I feel like I came out ahead on that.
Absolutely. I think another one that kind of fits into that realm and actually would fit pretty close, I think, into the hour timeline would be Bonanza. Just from, again, going into that social aspect, like the trading that comes into that. Someone is thinking, do I want to be stuck with this? I would like it, but I don't need it. So if you want to be stuck with it, take it. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want it, I'll take it off your hands to help you out if you really want to.
Don't worry. So how about a hidden gem or a guilty pleasure game?
I mean, we talked about it at the top here. I have to go with Mystery of the Abbey. I mean, it really is hidden at this point, right? It's out of print.
It's so hidden that I can't find it, and it's frustrating me.
I would say another one. I have not played this probably since the earlier days of me playing games, but Pirates Cove is a game that I enjoyed playing a lot when I was younger. And again, it kind of has that randomness aspect with a lot of dice rolling coming into there. Battling it out with fellow pirates and trying to get the loot back to the island. So that one, I think some of these that just have the dice rolling, that randomness, it kind of stinks sometimes. But I also kind of like that because it adds in an extra element that it's not all strategy. There has to be some things that have to bounce your way, and randomness is the great equalizer sometimes. So I'd probably throw there for a guilty pleasure.
I thought it was interesting in your book, the honorable mention, you put it in Carcassonne, and I think Carcassonne is one of the best games ever. I love Carcassonne. I have all the expansions. I've even ordered some stuff that was not available in the US off eBay and off of a website I found in Germany. I love Carcassonne, and I think it's because of all the replayability, but there's also a lot of randomness. Like you have to really be careful about where you put your tiles, because you either, in my opinion, you either need to place it to where it helps you or it hurts somebody else. And then like you said, and then the spike comes right back at you, and you're just like a tip of the hat. Like,
Yep.
well done.
I'm going to place the city tile here. It's not going to be connected yet. So I'm going to place a tile on it. And my goal is to try and connect it to your city. So that way you don't get all of those points for yourself. And then next thing I know, I'm getting this, they get the exact right piece they need. And I'm never going to be anywhere near that other city for the rest of the game. And now I just have a meeple that's just,
Two
hanging out on a
points.
zone that I can't get back.
2 points. He's,
Yep.
he's stuck. He's 2 points. Just forget it. He's done.
And of course, me, I've never won for a lost cause. So I'm still trying to like, oh, if I just get, a couple more to connect over this way, I'm going to get there. And then nothing
It doesn't
happens.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you try and it just doesn't work. It was so close, such a valiant effort. Just didn't make it. Yeah, Carcassonne was one of my all-time favorites. I play that one a lot.
I have the base game, and to date how old my copy of it is, I do not have the river expansion. So now the river is included with the base game. And I was looking for the river online and you can't find it because
Nope.
everything now it's included with it. So I'm just sitting here with my copy that I would love to have the basic river expansion. So I'll maybe track it down someday. But for the time being, I just have the standard base version.
Yeah, mine didn't come with the river. I bought the river separate, and then the river 2 came out, which put a fork in the river, and it had two ends, had two lakes at the bottom. Watch out!
You've got a fancy one there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, good old, good old Carcassonne, man. So many good games of that.
Yep.
That's actually the game. So I talk a lot about Catan's what got me really into board gaming at work with multiple coworkers. But my friend at a previous job, she introduced me to Carcassonne, and we would play every day at lunch. Just her and I, every day, 2 or 3 times. Because with two players on the base game, you can fly through that in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a game that I think when the day comes that I do a second edition of the book, I think a lot of those games that I have in at least two of the games, Dominion and Carcassonne, will each get their own chapter for sure. They're both just they're such good games, and they're distinctly different from a lot of other games, from either the tile laying aspect, or at least in Dominion, it's kind of the OG deck builder.
Yes.
It was really what kind of got a lot of that deck building thing done, because suddenly it wasn't Dragon Ball Z or any other card collection.
Right.
You didn't have to think about that anymore. It was everything there is right with you. So and I have to assume that that's going to be in print for a little while yet.
Oh, Dominion. Yeah, I can't imagine. I think they just released another new expansion or new set.
I'm sure they did.
They actually now you can just buy like the money and land, like that deck, and then you can just buy any of the game. You don't have to buy the base, quote unquote, base game anymore. You can just buy the starter deck, and then go buy Alchemy and Seaside or whatever, and then you don't even have to have the base game. And I'm like, that is weird. But then you sit back and think, well, if people are just now getting into it, they may not have ever played the base game and don't have that fondness.
Yep.
For me,
And
it was a fondness of getting just destroyed at the. I love the game, and I am never win.
It depends who I play against. I have run into a few people where we sit down to play the game. I can think back to an event that I went with a few friends to kind of a camp, and there was people from all over the state of Wisconsin that came to play some games, and I didn't know one of the guys, and we both sat down to play Dominion, and he just wiped the floor with me. And then I went and played him in photosynthesis, and he wiped the floor with me. And I don't know that I have ever seen him not win a game. He just just operates on another level when it comes to strategy and thinking ahead, I guess.
There's people out there like that. My son plays a lot of chess. He's 9, and anything chess related, he just destroys me. I found this game again from the '60s, 3M box, same box as Acquire, called Feudal, and I'm like, oh, this game looks great, man. It basically is just a different version of chess, and my son just destroyed me. Another game that was on Kickstarter, I reviewed it for a website I write for. It was called Gambit of Kings. Great game. Another kind of chess-like game, and I've got the upper hand on him 2 times, I think. Then he just got a new game for Christmas called Chess Unbound. Oh my gosh! If you haven't seen that game, it's the idea of it is amazing. So you have these little like cages, like 4-leg cages that they move like chess pieces, but you move based on the tile you're on. And so the tile could be like a queen, and then so now it's a queen. But then wherever you stop, now it's a rook. And so when you can keep, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on here. I can
My
hold my own. Nope,
my
not a
brain would
not a
hurt
chance.
so fast playing that.
Oh man,
That would
my
be
son was setting me up. And there's 2 ways to win that game, right? You can either capture the king because you don't say check. You just they don't block their king. It's over. Or you can take all the little cages, the other little pawns. And my son got me down to my last pawn and my king, and he's like, "Dad, you can't win." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can move here." No, then I take your king. Well, then I'll just move my king. Well, then I can take your last pawn. Well, no. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
is this a scenario of the student becoming the master, or was this just the master like keeping the student in check?
It was the master keeping the student in check for sure. Chess isn't my game. Chess is his game. But he's been playing it for 5 years. I haven't. So, um, yeah, I know how the pieces move. I can set up a couple moves in advance, but that's not my game.
I have so much respect for people that can process that way. I try to, and that's that's a big part of even something like curling. It's called chess on ice, like trying to think multiple steps ahead. But there's so many different variables that can come in, and when it comes to chess, like when you have someone that is just so good at thinking through those different variables and how to do that. That's a lot of times one reason why my wife and I like to stick with games that are a little bit on the lighter side, because I don't have to get a headache from trying to think about all these different things that she could do or that someone else could do. And you never know what my wife is going to do when we're playing a game. So I, keep it as straightforward as possible, so there's fewer surprises.
And fewer arguments.
I don't know about that.
Let's not be crazy here.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that board games have helped our relationship, but at the same time, you wouldn't be able to tell that if you walked in while we were playing any game, especially like Ticket to Ride. We've recently been having a friend come over and play that with us, and anytime I now potentially propose the idea of playing a version of Ticket to Ride, he'll look at me and be like, "Are you sure? You sure you want to do this?" Because he will fuel the fire between the two of us. And he will
Everybody needs a friend like that.
exactly. He'll instigate a little bit, and I respect it. But
there you
it
go.
gets a little toasty sometimes at the table.
So what's your favorite board for Ticket to Ride?
I would have to say my favorite board is Old West. I really, part of it is because I just love the West itself. So there's some towns and cities on there that you just wouldn't find, on really, if you even said some of those names of towns to somebody, like you said, Gillette, Wyoming, someone would have no idea that that's an actual place. So I appreciate that you get to some of these lesser known towns and cities. And I also like the fact that you pick your city to start in, and you have to build from an existing track. So it's a little bit harder to block people, but it's also a little bit easier to kind of show people where you're going. So you have to really think through, where is your first piece going to go? And then how are you going to spread out from there? So it does take some thinking ahead of time. And then there's the opportunity of kind of claiming some city centers along the way. So if someone plays into a city, then you would collect the points on that particular route instead of them, which was ultimately the biggest source of contention why my wife will probably not play that map anymore. So
is that the
would
one
be
that
mine.
comes with Alvin and Dexter now?
Yes, it comes with Alvin. Yep. So, and it has Roswell on there. It has Roswell and UFO. Like, how can you not like that? So her version that she likes the most is the one on the opposite side, which is France. So having that's where you're kind of making the game board as you go along. It's just a really unique way to look at the game, and really have enjoyed playing that quite a bit. My goodness, when you say this is going to be a stretch of 3 blue and then someone else plays on top of that, it just feels so defeating at the same time.
Did you play the Stay at Home edition?
I have. Oh, was that like the print and
The
play
print and
version?
play one. Yeah,
I have not done that. I saw it, but I don't have a working printer in my house, so
it's
um,
a riot. It's
I'll have
great.
to. Yeah, we have to do that. I would hope that they come out with a little design, because they now say this is map number 6 or map number 7. Please give me a little icon that I can print out saying that this is map number 35 or whatever we're at now.
Yeah, they keep coming out with good ones. I like the Asia one where they have Asia and then Legendary Asia on the other side. I like that one. Nordic countries is fun.
I've heard some really good things about some of those, but I just that's one of those, like, I could go and collect all of these, and then I'd be again kind of going back to what we talked about earlier. When am I going to play some of them? So
Yeah.
try to keep that collection a little bit smaller.
The key is to get them all on your tablet. That's what I
Bingo,
do. I buy them.
bingo.
I have all of them on my Kindle, and so I think I'll play Nordic countries tonight, and I'll flip to that one. So
You
that's
know,
how I do. So when you play a game like Ticket to Ride that has colors, is there a specific color that you gravitate towards?
it always used to be blue, and then I got married, and my wife's favorite
Uh
color is blue. So
oh.
I is no longer blue. In fact, like, if I'm playing a game with anybody, I just hand her the blue color. I don't even give anybody else the choice. Just make sure she has that, and then I will probably green. But at the same time, I like to kind of switch it up, especially if you've got a game that has some different component colors that you might not see. That was one thing I enjoyed with getting the Ticket to Ride France. It has some white trains in there, so I can change it up and get a different color going. Um, if I ever got the chance to get the collector's edition of Europe that just came out with the pink ones, or throw some of those different ones out there.
They did the breast cancer awareness.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yep.
the pink trains. I picked those up for my games. I think it was $5. It was stupid cheap.
I better go do that, because it just needs an extra color for me.
I mean, and then you got 3D printers where you can print whatever color you want. My buddy just printed me black Batmobiles. So I have little miniature Batmobiles for my trains in Ticket to Ride.
That is fantastic.
And all I want to do now is play Ticket to Ride because I'm like, I want to play with the Batmobiles.
Someone call Alfred. Just get me out there.
Yeah.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
do this. Yeah, it's
Now,
hilarious.
now you need to have a little cave though to put the
Ooh.
Batmobiles in. So then when you're going to play trains, you pull them out of the Bat Cave.
Yeah. That would be awesome. I'm gonna text my friend real quick. Find a bat cave for these Batmobiles.
Can I put in a request real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. How are your 3D modeling skills? Let's put them to the test. That's awesome. No, my wife and I we started playing a lot of Catan with our friends, and then we had kids, and then a little bit of Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, and then now my main play co person is my son. He's 9. We play anything and everything. That's kind of why I also with him we like to stay around the 60-minute games because it helps us you know get a game in, have fun, not
Yeah.
too long.
And that's usually where my wife and I stick too. Neither one of us has the longest attention span in the world, so a lot of times, kind of sticking with anything that's 30 to 60 minutes is usually going to be probably the safest for us. One thing that we're going to try to do, I don't know if how long we'll be able to stick with it, but I would like to try and do 52 games in 52 weeks. So each week of the year, break out a different
Yikes.
game, and then try. So that way I can do a little bit more of some playthroughs of games that I might not get around to as
52
frequently.
different games, right?
Yes, 52 different games. Now, if it's a different map of Ticket to Ride, I'll probably call that good, and say that's included. Makes it a little bit easier for me to accomplish that. But that is one thing that we're going to try and do for this year. We'll see how long we stick with it, but that's a goal of mine.
That's awesome.
I might keep track. I might keep
I
track
would.
of who wins and who loses, and find out how many times I get my butt kicked throughout the course of the year. So
I track all my gaming on an app, more or less just to statistically prove I'm terrible at games, but it doesn't stop me from playing them and enjoying them.
I don't need to have what I already know proven.
Yeah, I
I,
do it more also to see, just like you, like how many games have I played, you know? So I just thought of this question: could you play mainly with your wife? What is you? Do you guys have like a favorite two-player game? Like it's only two players, designed for two players. Like Jaipur is a two-player game.
our go-to two player would be Patchwork. It's, it's quick, it's easy. There's a little bit of, gamesmanship that can go into it, and thinking, okay, what could this person be doing on their next turn? Is there a specific piece that they're going to go for that maybe I could thwart? But at the same time, it's separate enough that there's usually not too much animosity one way or the other. When we've played Jaipur, we kind of run into that where I will see something out there that I know she only has one gold in her hand, and there's a gold that just popped up. I don't have any use for it, but if I take that, because I've taken, I know that's the last one, but I can take it to prevent her from utilizing it. Just I tend to get a little too competitive with something like Jaipur, so I'd say Patchwork is probably our go-to one. Plus, it's relatively easy to it's easy to set up. We're both puzzly type
It's
people,
a
and
pretty quick play too, if I
yeah,
remember correctly.
yeah, we can get through a game of that in 20, maybe 30 minutes at most. So and that allows more freedom if we wanted to play another game, or if we are ready to just be away from each other for a few minutes as well.
Not that that ever happens.
No, never. That was just a hypothetical.
We call that Thursday.
Friday and Saturdays in our house, but
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, my son and I, we tracked out a game and I bought it, and we have yet to play it, but it's the Awful Green Things from Outer Space. It's a two-player game, straight up two-player game. It was like an old school game, and then it was made by Steve Jackson Games a couple years ago, and kind of a small print run on it, I guess. And so it's not in print right now. Stay away from Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. I'll tell you what, what was her name? Marie Kondo.
mm-hmm.
She's really hurt my game collection by everybody dumping the games they no longer want, and I'm like, well, I want it, and so I picked up the Awful Green Things from Outer Space off of a guy on, I want to say, Facebook for $5,
Oh wow,
and I'm like, wow. So we have to, but it's a 90-minute game, so we just need to find time to sit down and play it. But it's a hilarious
absolutely.
game where like one of you is like the ship, like, or the crew of the ship, and the other one's the aliens that are trying to take over. And so you're battling each other, and it changes every time based on what kills them and what makes them multiply or whatever. So
Hmm. One that we haven't played it as much, but I really appreciated how they adapted it, was Codenames Duet. I just
no,
the
I have not played that yet.
it's really challenging, which I enjoy, from the especially from like a cooperative aspect. Having a challenging cooperative game, in my opinion, is one of the most fun things, because you're either winning as a team or you're losing as a team. But this one, it's so unique because if I remember right, there's 3 assassins. There's one that's a shared assassin, and you're giving clues to each other off the same word board. So you have one shared assassin for both, but you don't know which one that is. You then have one that's an assassin for me, but not for her, and vice versa. So you're really trying to work through some challenging aspects of that and guess off of, the same thing, but what one person sees as their word is not what the other person sees. So it's a really fun adaptation. It's very challenging, and you've only got a certain number of turns to get all of the words. So that's where
Nice.
they kind of go. You can't just give one word clues necessarily. You got to get 2 or 3 a few times in there to be able to play through it.
That's
So
awesome.
that's one that can test the limits of a marriage. Like, how could you not know what I was thinking? How
It's like when
could
you're,
you not know that?
yeah, the old days of Taboo.
Yep, it's one of those that you word association games where you think, okay, they're married, they should be able to be on the same wavelength. It doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, because I've learned, at least for in my household, my wife and I think very differently, and we approach words and we think of them very differently. So it's you start to have to realize you need to think from the other person's perspective. And so Codenames Duet was kind of a surprise for me. We got it and thinking, okay, we'll play this once or twice, and then we lost it pretty much every time that we started. It took 4 or 5 plays for us to actually win. And I like that. Like, make it
Yeah,
challenging to win that 2-player game. And then they've kind of got some additional challenges that you can do to make it a little bit more of a
that's cool.
kind of a journey, kind of legacy challenge.
No, that's awesome. No, I'll have to look into that one. I like code names enough. Some of the guys in my office, they would play it too much and get too amped up with it. How could you not know what I meant? And it's like sometimes like those, like you talked about, was it the Resistance Avalon? And that one, so I liked that one more than Coup, and Coup with the expansion is a lot of fun because you have like the alliances. You can flip that card over. But the Resistance is fun. But the Avalon, we have like Merlin and all the different characters and it's kind of like Bang meets Coup by way of Secret Hitler, and I think Avalon's one of the best in that social deduction genre because in my office we had to like curb a lot of the social deduction because people just would even at Bang, Bang's hilarious. We played Bang to death. Avalon offers an extra layer with the characters who some people know other people and some people don't, and you could win but still lose if Merlin dies, and
Yep.
it's it's a good one.
It's so much fun. That was a game I wanted to make sure that was played with visiting family this past weekend. I had my brother, I had his wife, and then their kids, and then my niece's boyfriend were all there. And I started wondering about halfway through the first play, did I just ruin the relationship between my niece and her boyfriend by having us play this game? Because they had played before, so they knew how to play it. And there was like argument going back and forth with them. I didn't help matters any, and I was a good guy, but I just it was hilarious to watch. And at the same time, I'm thinking, why did I do this to them? Did I just make the 16-hour drive home really challenging and awkward?
As long as it had enough rows of seating to keep them separated, it's okay. Just put some bags in between.
Exactly. Apparently, they did joke on the way home. They did joke in the vehicle, like, "Oh, maybe we should play the Resistance on the way back," and was very quickly. They didn't have it with them, thankfully. That was one that I owned. But I had a coworker that I wanted to introduce this at a kind of a company event, and I was really excited that she knew how to play it because I was thinking, great, someone else that's there makes kind of the first playthroughs a little bit easier. And she told me, she's like, no, I like the people I work with. I refuse to play this game because I do not want to get mad at them. And she's like, I don't want to have trust issues with everyone.
I mean, that's a legit thing.
I respect it. I
Yeah,
respect
absolutely. I mean, I had to stop playing Secret Hitler because it just got too rambunctious in my office, and we would set a decibel meter on the table, like an app. We had an app that if it got too loud, the app would start going dinging to let you know, hey, too loud, because we were in a conference room and people could hear us outside the conference room, and so we had to start toning down our game. And Avalon did a good job of scratching that itch, but not going that extra distance.
Sure. I may or may not have told my niece partway through that first play, like, I have a rant once this game is done, just to let you know. And we did not have a noise complaint filed from any of our neighbors, so I must not have been too loud, but I can guarantee that if someone walked up to the door, they would have heard a little bit of, why were you flip-flopping that entire time.
That's one of those games where like you have to do what's best for not just you but your team, and protect whoever you're trying to protect or hunt down whoever you're trying to hunt down. I think that's why Avalon works so well. Is the flip flopping can throw somebody off, but you gotta be careful because it could throw off your own team. They may not trust you anymore, and then you just gotta sit in the corner now. And
Exactly. And if you see that one side is winning, and you can play a couple different times with that same group in that same sitting. And if you see that one group is winning a little bit more frequently, you can add in one of those extra characters to try and rebalance it a little bit. And that was really helpful. It's the only reason I won a game, because we put, added Percival into it. I got Merlin 3 straight games. So I was trying to need to adapt how I played from a game to game basis. And it just having that extra opportunity to change the game up a little bit as you played through it just keeps it fresh for everybody, but also makes it so that if someone does get Merlin the same time, for the same role for 3 straight times, it keeps it fun for me and also keeps it a little bit challenging for everyone.
Yeah, it's a solid game. I'm glad you mentioned that one too. That's another good one. So, but right now, my new company, we're slowly building it up. I mean, COVID doesn't help. People being in and out, being sick or not sick, or it's been rough. But we're slow, and then we're busy right now. So I don't know. That's the other problem. So we'll get
Yeah,
it going.
it's definitely something that I would like to do and start trying to implement at some point. I'm still kind of getting my feet wet. I've only been with my current company for a couple months, so just trying to get my feet wet with understanding how I fit into the culture of everything. And I know that the people here are going to be into games. It's just a matter of finding the right time. And we're a hybrid office, so some people are in some days, so just trying to figure out what's a good day to make it work for the people that would be interested in playing.
No. And anybody looking for starting their group or continuing their group, the Beginner's Board Game Bible is definitely, it's a good, fast, quick read. It's on Amazon. You can get it there. So I downloaded it straight to my Kindle and finished it in 2 days, um, because it was that good. And I reached out to you immediately. I'm like, I want to talk to you. I just think it's such a, like I said, I'm way beyond needing the starter group, but I like what you had to say, and a lot of it really reinforces my beliefs and what I think about board gaming and what I think about creating a group and how to introduce people to games and stuff. And one of the other things you said was, using YouTube uh, ahead of time, watch some playthroughs, watch some how-to videos, so that it helps you figure the game out and helps you teach the games to other people. That's very important. And I use a lot of the how-to videos and review videos to decide whether or not I want to buy a game.
Exactly. We have to take advantage of the resources that we have available. And we are in a period of time, especially now, even, with COVID, things are getting even more digitized. You've got, Board Game Arena and other opportunities to even test games out, online before you might purchase them to figure out if it is a good fit. So it's just a matter of making the use of the resources that you have available and using, your local game store too. Talk with, people that they talk with other players on a regular basis. They see games being played, and they can do a really great job of providing some recommendations for you as well.
Or take your quiz and figure out what game you should play.
Bingo.
So Ben, if anybody want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Best places to find me are going to be on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is that Ranger Dude, all one word. If you take a look at TikTok, I have just started TikTok under the same handle. I'm actually going to try and document our 52 games in 52 weeks on TikTok. An introductory video that talks about how to play or what the game is. Another one that talks about how to play it. And another one that talks about what happened on the playthrough and who won. So if you want to check that out, the first week is just about fully posted. We started with Mariposas. So if you check out that Ranger Dude on TikTok, you can find me there. Otherwise, Twitter and Instagram is a great way to get a hold of me.
Excellent. Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. Had a good time talking with you. Like I said, your book is great. Go find it on Amazon. Be careful, though. Once you buy it, Amazon's going to decide you need to buy every book about board gaming. And I just keep buying them one at a time and reading them one at a time. And if you want to reach out to me, it's facebook.com/groups/Eat Lunch and Board Game. Email it eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com, or my website is www.eatlunchandboardgame.com. And remember, board games build bridges.
Stay in tune with all things sports around Indiana and the nation with the Crash Course Podcast. Each week, we tackle the big storylines from the world of the Colts, Pacers, and the Indiana college scene, while also keeping a pulse on the nation. We record live weekly at twitch.tv/3C Media and can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can catch the Crash Course Podcast.
When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.